Welcome to From the VC's Bookshelf, a podcast from TBR, the College System of Tennessee, the state's largest higher education system. In this series, we examine how we might re-envision the work we do and how we work together as we move into a post-pandemic world. Please join our host, Dr. Heidi Lemming, Vice Chancellor for Student Success, as she leads a live discussion with industry experts and leaders throughout our system.
Welcome to this semester's series focused on the book How Full Is Your Bucket by Tom Rath and Donald Clifton. And today's focus will be on the second of 5 strategies that are the focus of the book, How Full Is Your Bucket? Those 5 strategies are prevent bucket dipping, shine a light on what is right, make best friends, give unexpectedly, and reverse the golden rule. We're interviewing for this podcast the Chancellor's Fellowship. The Chancellor's Fellowship is a cohort-based initiative designed to further enhance the leadership capabilities of senior administrators within the College System of Tennessee. And this program really deepens the participants' understanding of education and workforce policy at both the system and state levels, while strengthening a leadership pipeline equipped to advance our executive leaders within higher education. So I'm excited today to be joined by 3 members of the cohort, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. But first, let me tell you who will be on today's podcast. Dr. Jamie Frakes of the TCAT Northwest, Karen Larson, TCAT Jackson, and Dr. Corey Campbell from Cleveland State Community College. I'd like for each of them, though, to introduce themselves to our listeners today and their role at their institution and a brief history of their career path. We'll start with Jamie.
Good morning, Heidi, and good morning, everyone. My name is Jamie Frakes. I'm the Vice President of Academic Affairs at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology Northwest. I'm responsible for all things involving academic operations within the institution and have been on the job a little over a year at TCAT Northwest. Prior to that, I've been at community colleges and have a total of 32 years experience in higher education. Earned my doctoral degree in higher and adult education and policy and research studies at the University of Memphis back in 2005. And one of the interesting things about this journey is that I remember when I finished defending my dissertation, someone said, now the work begins. And that's been the path that I've been on ever since. So it's been an exciting path, and I'm really excited to be a part of this Chancellor's Fellowship cohort.
Thanks, Jamie. Excited to have this conversation with you today. Karen.
Well, good morning as well. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Dr. Lemming. I am the Vice President for Instruction and Institutional Effectiveness at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Jackson. That's a mouthful. At TCAT Jackson, I lead faculty, develop curriculum, and I manage our institutional accreditation and compliance. Like Jamie, I hate to say the word senior member, but I'm in my 29th year of serving in public higher education in Tennessee. I started my career at Jackson State Community College. I spent 12 years there working in various administrative offices. Then I spent 12 years teaching for TCAT Jackson. And so the last several years, I've been in this leadership role. Public higher ed is a special place in my heart. It is where I began, and it is where my children completed their master's degrees. I completed my master's degree with the University of Memphis. It is something I'm super passionate about and believe in because I've seen how it changed the life of my career and my children. And so it's just kind of legacy building, if you will. So super excited to be a part of the fellowship and to talk to you today.
Thank you, Karen. Excited to hear from you as well. And Corey rounds us out for the panel today. Corey, I'll let you do your introduction.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lemming. Good morning, everyone. My name is Corey Campbell, currently at Cleveland State Community College. Just recently took on a new role as Vice President of Policy and Strategy, formerly Vice President of Academic Affairs. And so my new role kind of oversee all things policy, compliance, as well as institutional research in our professional development center. Had the opportunity to work in higher ed just under 20 years, kind of bouncing back and forth between academic affairs and student affairs. So I kind of joke that I can't make up my mind, but been able to get some experience in the classroom and teaching, as well as academic advising, and then any and everything within student affairs. Received my doctorate from Nova Southeastern University in higher education leadership and organizational leadership, and have had the privilege of working at various institutions within higher education, both public, private, and for-profit, both 2-year and 4-year. So very happy to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Super excited to have you join us too, Corey. And I think this will be a real engaging conversation today with our 3 panelists. Again, the book that we're using for all of our podcasts is based on research findings from the Gallup organization that translated into an assessment tool on strengths-based characteristics that pull from the field of positive psychology. So that is, if we lean into our strengths as opposed to focusing on what we have as our weaknesses, we can build more positive and productive organizations. So I like to start each podcast in this series with asking our Chancellor's fellows. They were asked to take the Strengths Quest assessment. What talents did you learn you had that maybe weren't obvious to you? And what have you done with that insight since the first workshop? I might start with Corey to lead us off.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had the opportunity to take the strengths finders before. So taking it again, I found that 3 of my top 5 strengths were the same. And so kind of leaning into them and really looking at the relationship-based themes and understanding about myself, that really taking time to meet folks one-on-one or in small groups and kind of taking that deep dive and learning more about them, connecting with whether it's staff, students, colleagues, whomever the case may be, and kind of developing those relationships, getting to know people both professionally and then a little bit, personally as well, has helped cultivate, some of the work product in terms of working together, in terms of, culture building, in terms of just general productivity for the students, of course, and then for the overall institution. So that's something that stuck out with me.
Thanks, Corey. And while you've done that before, maybe some others haven't. So, Karen, have you taken those strengths before? And if not, what were your impressions?
I had actually completed the assessment before. However, and I have to say, when I read the description of each one of the 5, I can't say that I was surprised exactly. They seem to fit with my personality. In fact, that's what I thought they were. I thought they were more of a personality or my approach to work, just a part of how I do that. And so for me, it's been interesting to think of it in terms of a strength and not necessarily just something that I do. And in leaning into that, I tried to really study the summary report that you receive about your strengths and look at how they blend together and how deeply about that and how that works together. So, for example, responsibility and context are 2 of my top. And so when I look at that, one of the things that I thought about is I'm always excited to help others because I have a powerful memory of who has helped me. Context is your history. You're really into history of things, whatever it is that you have in front of you. And I thought about that. And so I've tried to be a little more intentional with that and understanding that that's a strength and that my memory of how, I've had great mentors and encouragers throughout my career, and try to be that and not only see it as just something that I do, but more of a strength that I have and how that really can help those that I work with every day.
That's great. Thank you, Jane or Karen. Jamie, have you also taken the strengths?
Yes, I have.
Okay, 3 for 3.
Like Corey and Karen, I have taken it before as well. And what was really eye-opening, I guess the second time around, just the consistency of it, how I scored, and I really had some strengths in each of the 4 quadrants that we've become familiar with. But the thing that really jumped out at me was just really my 4th and 5th strengths in my top 5, being strategic and being a learner. Now, I wasn't surprised by that, but I really thought I would have been more in the relationship building side of it. But just working with faculty and students and trying to build bridges and letting our faculty know that in building that relationship with the student, not only are we preparing them for academic success, but we're also really programming them for success in their careers and letting them know that it's really important to have that conversation. And it helps with retention, it helps with success in the classroom. And so I have to lean on that first strength that I have, which is individualization, which is part of the relationship building. But looking at it from that angle, I see where my strategic thinking and learning skill set comes into being, because I really have a drive to let everyone know that that first part of success for a student, and also it's kind of a double-edged sword. I want the faculty to understand too that they can use their strengths to not only improve their instructional styles, but also to kind of let them know about the science involved so that everyone succeeds. So all boats are rising in this situation.
It's great. Well, it's good to know that we picked something that is familiar with folks, because I think, that is the power of Gallup's assessment tool, has been widely used and is really backed by that research. So it's good to hear that you all were familiar with the tool already. We're going to focus on the second chapter of the book, How Full is Your Bucket? And that strategy is shine a light on what's right. The book talks about, what if we were to make a list of those who did volunteer instead of those who didn't, and recognize what people are doing well instead of just what they don't do. So, again, thinking about changing the culture of the organization, it might take more time and at first maybe seem less direct, but the truth is it gives reinforcement to employees who did something right. And the employees who are always on time and helping out across roles and completing projects above and beyond expectations, will be pleased to see themselves recognized. Of course, the ones that don't appear on that list will kind of get the message, I guess, in subtle ways. So one of the first questions I have for all three of you is, since learning this strategy by reading the book, have you tested that out in your workplace? And maybe what results have you seen if you have? Just curious if in reading this is something that you've tried out. Jamie, I'll start with you this time.
I think that's a great question. I have tested it out, actually. And what I've done is I've worked with faculty to establish what we call a leadership meeting. And it's all about having the students and the faculty come together and reflect out on what's working, not only in the academic environment, but let's talk about some of the things that they're doing just to overall make things better, make their academic experience better, prepare them for their career journeys. And it's been really eye-opening. Now, having said that, I've only tried that with about 3 classes. So I'm in the process of continuing on with other classes and other programs. But it's really been an eye-opener, because you can really see the light turn on in the students and the faculty's eyes, because they really want to express the things that they've done, how it's made them a better student, how it's prepared them for life in general. And I'm really excited to see that kind of feedback, because it really shines a light on being asset focused versus deficit focused. That's where I kind of draw that, is I love to see the asset focus. Let's focus on what's going right. Let's focus on the things that are making improvements in the academic environment and with the students themselves. And that to me is exciting as an educator.
That's great. Corey, have you tested this out?
I have, actually, knowingly and unknowingly, if you will. And so kind of diving into really building on the recognition piece and the positivity. And I've kind of joked with those that I work with that typically, everyone likes to be recognized in their own way, whether, publicly, privately, however. And so kind of finding out some of those motivators, but then also being specific in the positivity, so essentially if someone has done something, being specific about what they've done and then how that has positively impacted the organization, the group of people that they were working with, and then trying to find out either directly or indirectly how that person likes to be recognized, to build upon that. So that way, when speaking, it's the feedback is genuine and it's specific, to know that there's an investment in seeing exactly what is going on. And to Jamie's point earlier, kind of bridging gaps, if you will. And so having various stakeholders involved in that. So I've tried to do that, and will continue to try to do it from the teaching of the book.
That's great. And I like the fact that you're mentioning about how the feedback is authentic, and then that's going to play into a question I've got here later about leaders. Karen, what about you?
With both gentlemen, I really do agree that, being authentic and shining a light on what's right is really important. I don't think it works if you're not testing it out. It's been a subtle process, looking for organic opportunities more on an individual level to speak into someone and encourage them and talk about their potential and where I see them going in their career or what they've done that's really, really great and is improving not just their class, but because I deal with faculty, but with, as a whole, as a team, our faculty. And so I see a long-term culture shift is what I see the potential and what I see happening. That's the result that I hope to see, but I see it unfolding slowly. And then, of course, in that approach, you're shining a flashlight rather than a floodlight. So seeing individual conversations become better working relationships and building on that from there.
That's great. You must dig in a little bit more deeply on this idea of this positive feedback. In the book, they talk about, if you recognize the positive rather than the negative, it connects to the strengths-based coaching because you're identifying each person's top talents, and then you focus on how that contributes to the larger team's efforts. So it challenges this idea that leadership isn't about being well-rounded, but more about building a well-rounded team. Karen, do you agree with that statement? And how, if at all, has your opinion of that maybe changed by participating in strengths-based training?
I do. I totally agree with that statement. I think when you talk about being well-rounded as an individual, when we try to be well-rounded, sometimes that means that we actually weaken our effectiveness because I have a friend that says you can't step outside your mind for a long time. You only do it for a short time. And so trying to be a lot, but if you can hone in on the things that your strength assessment shows you, I think you'll be more effective. And in that way, when you think about forming a team, when you look at you want to build a team that brings different perspectives to the table, obviously. But I think sometimes we tend to focus on tangible things or skill sets. He's really good at Excel spreadsheets, so I want him on my team because maybe that's not where I'm great. Or she's really good at written communication. I need her on my team to fill in that skill set. But as a leader, if you will look at your team as the strengths that they bring to the table rather than their skill set, I think that's more powerful. I think that is a more developed team when you are thinking about your team in that way. Instead of defining them as a skill, looking at their strengths overall, I think it makes the team better overall.
Jamie, do you agree that leadership isn't about being well-rounded? It's about building the well-rounded team?
I sure do. I agree with what Karen said. I feel like, and I use a lot of analogies that are typically sports related, and I think about just the competitive environment that we're in. And, a lot of times when you think about having a strong team, everyone has a role to play on that team. And as a leader, it's important that we recognize the strengths of each member of the team. But if we have someone that has a particular strength that bodes well for the team, and maybe they fulfill the needs of a particular role, it's important for us to make sure that they stay within that. And I like what Corey said earlier about that authenticity, that they stay with that that strength that they have, or what I would call a sweet spot where they can adapt, but also we want to keep them in that position so that they're serving the team the best they can. And then from there, build off each member of the team and see where their strengths will help you go. I just think it's critical to do that. If and I'm going to jump into my sports talk here. If I've got someone who's a good baseball pitcher and they can throw the ball over 100 miles an hour, why would I want to worry about playing them at second base? And I hope y'all can gather for what I'm saying there. But, if they have the strength and they're a solid pitcher, then let's keep them on the mound. Let's build around that. And I think that goes with, what we have in higher education as well. I mean, we have a lot of talent and we have the capacity to impact lives. And that's, as a leader, it's important for us to make sure we're building that well-rounded team around their strengths as opposed to making them play out of position. I guess I'll be quiet now.
No, that's great. Let's see if Corey's got another sports analogy. If not, we'll take a different route. And Corey, what do you think?
Absolutely. Got full of sports analogies. Yeah, I agree for the most part. I think that, of course, having the well-rounded team helps to, again, bring the strengths out of folks. And as Jamie mentioned, positioning people where they excel best. I think it's also important for a leader to be somewhat well-rounded. And I guess depending on the definition of well-rounded, to have that understanding and being able to determine his or herself, kind of where their strengths are, essentially, and kind of where their blind spots may be. Because I think with strengths overall, we have our top 5 and our top 10, but we can do all of them, right? Our top 5 and our top 10 are the ones that come more naturally, the ones that we more gravitate to, the one that we're more comfortable with. So I do think it's important to have that well-rounded, at least kind of mindset as a leader when putting together teams, when working together with folks, but definitely, no one person can do everything. So completely agree with the points that Jamie and Karen made.
Well, and Corey, you mentioned this piece about being authentic with the feedback. So I want to go into that a little bit more too. February of last year, there was a Gallup survey report on, the traits, the leadership traits that employees are looking for from their leaders. There's like a list of 9, but the top ones were hope, trust, compassion, and stability. This is what people are looking for from their leaders. And I think, being authentic with feedback is certainly part of building trust, with those that you lead. But when you think about those 4, hope, trust, compassion, and stability, can you reflect on, which of those you're looking for from those that you want to lead? So you're in a leadership role, but it doesn't mean that, you're not following someone else still. So talk a little bit about what you're looking for and this idea about being authentic and trust, building that.
Yeah, absolutely. All 4 resonate with me. I think if I had to pick one, it would be trust, because I think you can kind of get to the others to a certain degree when you have trust, both from those that you may be following and leading you, as well as those that you're working with and those that you lead, simply because, as you're working together, and ideally, we're bringing everyone to work together towards a common goal, then essentially everyone in that particular team, organization, whatever have you, knows kind of what it is they're doing, and they are entrusted, if you will, or believed in, if you will, to be able to do whatever task or responsibility is ahead of them. So for me personally, I would say trust, and knowing that I have the autonomy to be able to do the things that need to be done within the confines of the organization to improve the organization, outcomes for the organization. In our case, students, because, that's why we do what we do. It all comes back to students. So I think that's really important. And I think trust kind of leads to organizational culture. And there's a phrase that I've heard that, change moves at the speed of trust. And so kind of at the core of some of the work that we do, and just in general, having that level of trust then kind of lead to, hope, because you're ideally believing the message that you're receiving from your leader, and those that you're leading are believing the message that they're receiving from you. So for me personally, it would be trust. And I think you can kind of lead to some of these other characteristics that you mentioned, Heidi, with compassion, stability, and hope if you have trust.
That's great. Jamie, what about you? Out of those four, what are you looking for in those who you want to lead you?
Excellent question. And I have to go back to what Corey said there. I love that saying that he shared. I would have to follow in the same path that he's looking at, trust, but also stability is important to me. But I think you can't really have stability until you have trust. And I know that in looking at a lot of the research, when you look at hope, hope is critically important because that gets back to your vision. That gets back to the design of your organization and where you want to take the organization. What is your mission? What is your vision? And so from there you get trust. I can see where they're all linked. So I kind of fall in that same category with Corey on that. I think that's critically important to have that trust because from there you have a level of confidence and you can go out and change the world after that.
Yeah, and trust is one of those things too that is something that's also individualized. We think about trust, some people are more trusting than others for whatever reason, environmental or history or whatever. Karen, what do you think about the idea of hope, trust, compassion, and stability? Which one of those four?
Well, I have to side with the fellas on, trust is just foundational. And just like Jamie and Corey both spoke to is, with trust, you build hope from trust. You build stability from trust. Compassion without trust can seem performative, doesn't seem real or authentic. And so I think that trust is the key. When you can trust your leadership, you can hope and you can, feel stable in your workplace. And I also think it's important that trust is reciprocal. People know when they're not trusted by their leadership. I think it's a foundational driver of morale. People who are trustworthy or who feel they are trustworthy, they are typically your best employees. And they are also the ones who will recognize immediately if they are trusted. And so it's their strongest signal. And I think it's more than money or recognition. I think it's a strong response when you talk about trust because that's just a core part of a person's character. And so I think trust is foundational. And I think that it's just an important part of that work relationship with your leadership and your leadership with you as well.
So I guess I'll ask a follow-up question for all three of you, no particular order to answer this one. But what do you do if trust is the foundation? What do you do when that trust is broken to build that foundation back as a leader? Anyone want to weigh in on some thoughts of how you build trust back once it's lost?
I'll jump in there. I think, and this goes back to my top strength from the Strengths Builder, but it's about relationships. It's about getting back to the core foundation of that relationship and making sure that those expectations are addressed, readdressed in this situation, and that communication follows up with that. I think that's probably the first step. And then it will, obviously it will take time. It's certainly nothing that can be, solved in 24 hours or 36 hours. But I think after that, once those expectations are laid down, they're readdressed and you have a time-sensitive follow-up to those things, I think you have a great opportunity to repair trust.
Yeah, Jamie, I think it's a great opportunity. That's a great way to put it when you're thinking about rebuilding trust. I think you have to be really transparent and really honest after trust is broken and accepting and ownership of it. I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely agree with both Jamie and Karen. I think when we think about trust, kind of two fundamental elements come out. to me, and Karen touched on one of them being kind of the character, of a person, and the other one being the competence of a person. And so kind of understanding when addressing which one or both or whatever the case may be was broken essentially or violated or however we want to phrase it, and then understanding that and then understanding what we need to do to address it. And so was it a misperception, or do we have accurate information, whatever's going on with the situation? So being able to address it. And then to Jamie's point, it takes time. Once those expectations are established, walking that walk and following through on whatever was established in order to, slowly mend. And then ideally, once people involved see the change or the address of what didn't occur previously, then ideally, we take those steps to mend that trust and build that trust back up.
Well, I appreciate you all reflecting on that. I think all of us have encountered situations where our trust has been violated and we have to figure out how to build that back. And as leaders, I think it's important for us to recognize maybe the ways that we can do that. And because none of us are perfect, right? And we all make some mistakes along the way, hopefully learning from those. Thank you so much for your time today as panelists to talk about this second chapter in the book. Really appreciate your insights, and also as being a part of the Chancellor's Fellowship, showcasing to others kind of some of the leadership that we've got in the system. I appreciate you sharing your reflections.
Thank you so much. Boy, I've appreciated having the time, and the fellowship has been a tremendous experience for me in getting to know other leaders across the system. It's been really awesome.
I have to agree with Karen 100%. The Chancellor's Fellowship has just been a remarkable honor first, just being able to build a relationship with my fellows has really been enriching in many ways. And so I'm just very grateful.
Yeah, ditto. The same, being in the Chancellor's Fellows program has been quite humbling. Also a great learning opportunity to learn from and work with fellows in the program, and folks from the system office like yourself, Heidi, and Heather, and learning from folks in the system office, networking. So it's been a tremendous experience and opportunity. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you again for your time today, and look forward to continuing to work with you in the future.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this edition of From the VC's Bookshelf, brought to you by TBR, the College System of Tennessee, powering the state's economy and changing the lives of thousands of graduates, starting successful careers each year. To learn more about upcoming book selections or to register to attend discussions live, visit tbr.edu/bookshelf.